Welcome, everyone. I'm Thomas Hall, Executive Director of CleanStart, and I'm glad you're joining us today. For those of you that are new to us, CleanStart has been helping clean tech entrepreneurs and innovators bring their ideas to life right here in the Central Valley of California since 2005. What we do is we connect founders, innovators, builders, and operators with the knowledge, relationships, and community they need to actually get things done in this space. Today's conversation is part of our Perspective webinar series, practical, founder friendly discussions focused on what actually matters when you're building a clean tech company. Before we get started, I want to give a huge thank you to the partners who make this work possible, the ones championing the Sacramento Valley region's boldest clean energy founders, the Carlson Center at Sac State, E2, SMUD, and ChicoStart. Please join me in thanking them. Without them, we couldn't do any of this, so we're eternally grateful. And if you do have an idea, they're great resources to reach out to so that you can connect into the larger ecosystem. Now, let me set the stage. You drive an EV. The number one thing that's on everyone's mind when they have an EV is charging. And this number might sting you, is that today, 1 in 5 charging sessions fails, not because the cars don't work and not because chargers can't work, but because stations fail silently, and operators often don't find out until a frustrated driver is angry standing right there at the EVSE. Each fix can mean a technician being dispatched, north of $1,000 before you even figure out what's going on, 2 or 3 trips before it's actually solved. And that problem is what our feature founders set out to solve. Their tagline says it best, where EV charging meets reliability. Please help me welcome the team behind Data Pigeon, an AI native diagnostics platform for EV charging networks, built by a group of UC Davis and Sac State students who are, frankly, moving faster than companies 10 times their size. Their models are already training on more than 1.4 billion data points, predicting charger failures for up to 12 hours before they happen. And here's the detail that I love. Data Pigeon got its start right here in our ecosystem at Plasma. They also went and competed in the Carlson Center Startup Challenge last fall. Since then, they've won top prizes at UC Davis's Big Bang competition. They taken first place at Discovery at Snowflake's Proving Ground and placed in the King's Capitalized Pitch event. So, joining us today are the co-founders of Data Pigeon, Suhani Sokin, the COO, Sina Vagifi, the CTO, and Sanara Milawabar Daras, the CEO. I got the CEO and CTO mixed up there. I'm sorry. um, we've got a great conversation lined up with them, and we'll leave some time towards the end for questions. So start thinking of them now. Feel free to drop them in the chat as we go. So Sina, Sanara, uh, Suhani, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. All right. And with that, I kind of want you guys to walk me through the founding and coming up with Data Pigeon. Were you frustrated with EVs where you're like, hey, I think there's something here? Walk me through how you started your kind of or problem discovery solution and then building a team. I'm gonna spotlight you guys.
That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. Was started
Oh
originally
no.
as a GovTech company. Also, am I chopping up at all a little bit?
You are cutting in and out. I'm really sorry.
It's
We didn't
fine.
catch much of that.
I'll let Suhani and Sina take the stage on this question then.
Absolutely, yes. So let me give you a quick intro. So we all started this company off, as Sonara was mentioning, as a GovTech company, and we soon pivoted and realized there's this huge market in EV charging specifically. Now we have a personal bond with this market. Sonara actually has an EV car, and she's faced this issue multiple times in her journey of charging, of always finding failed chargers. And this is a very recurring event. So every single time that you go to a charger, it's always down. And there's this whole, question of there's this new emerging market of EVs. It's the new trend these days. Why is this charging problem still there? So we dug more into this, and we initially actually found, a concept of, okay, there's a lot of remote resolutions that could be done in EV charging and how exactly these chargers work. So after we sort of started to dive into this problem, we took it as a research expedition. So we're students right now, and the main thing we can do is research. So we met with a lot of people from the industry. We met with the UC Davis EV charging lab, and we tried to understand this problem better. And from there, we started to formulate a solution around EV charger reliability. Now, the strong suit that our team brings right now is, and I know I might be deviating a little from the question, is in computer science. So we're all computer science majors. So the only skill set we could have brought was something technical, and that's what we did do. So we built machine learning models around charger reliability, and that's how Data Pigeon was born.
So, you guys have a tagline around AI and EV charging and things like that. And as everyone's well aware right now, there's a lot of, I guess, hype and I guess froth in the EV ecosystem. So, the question I have is how do you try to differentiate yourselves from, say, something that might be more vaporware, and try to establish yourselves as, a real solution?
Yeah, that's a great question. So initially, when we were starting to research this whole problem, what we found was there's actually not a lot of companies that do predictive maintenance in the EV charging realm. So these companies try to make up these companies, meaning the CPOs. These are the charge point operators, the owners of these charging stations. What they try to do is they make their own models for predictive maintenance, but the system is still very reactive. It's not very predictive. So they only try to fix the issue after it's happened instead of predicting it. So from what we saw in our market research, there wasn't any real competition. You mentioned in that froth of people who are building these kind of solutions in this specific space. So that's the kind of niche that we've found so far, and that's what differentiates us from
Yeah.
them.
And we believe that our
Mhm.
machine learning models are useful not only in the EV charging industry, but then in a variety of industries, that rely primarily on hardware.
So what has been, I guess the journey of finding kind of partners to build this AI model with? Because you have to get quality data in and work with quality data. And, obviously you guys don't have that data to begin with. So what was your process of like, okay, I think we can try to do preventive maintenance. We can utilize some AI, some machine learning. Um, how do we get the data and who do we form partnerships? Can you walk me through that process?
Yes, that is a great question. And to answer this, we used our card as students. So we reached out to these companies saying, like, we were very open and upfront with them. We were like, hey, we're students, we're interested in this problem. We have this background. Um, can we look into what, a potential partnership would look like? And of course, there was a lot of companies that we reached out to, and a lot of them were scared initially, of course, to work with students. But we were lucky enough to land one company, and this company provided us all of the data that we're working with today. And I think that us partnering with the UC Davis EV Research Lab helped us a lot because they have tons of experience in the industry, and that lab specifically is well known also in the EV industry. And so that helped give us some more credibility. So we worked directly with the director of the EV lab as well as one of their head researchers. And they've helped with prototyping and brainstorming.
Yes, I'll follow up on what Sonara was mentioning. So there is this EV lab here on campus, specifically at UC Davis, and it's one of the most renowned labs in America. And on top of that, I wanted to add, the EV charging industry is an industry full of very passionate people, and these people are very passionate about charging and making it reliable and accessible for everyone. So when we as students were very curious and entering this whole ecosystem, people were, willing to open their books and show us exactly how it works because it's a problem that not a lot of people are focusing on. And so that's how we also got a lot of conversations through that industry. Yep.
So I always encourage, entrepreneurs to play the student card as long as they can. Because everyone's like, oh, student, they're the future. I really want to help them. Um, but you also want to get taken, seriously as, some as a team with like chops, someone who can really deliver on a product. Um, what have you learned in trying to go transition from the I'm a student that's learning how to do this as a startup to okay, now we need to deliver a solution and be taken as seriously as everyone else?
So I think the best way I could answer this is it's through our partnership with that first company. Not only did they provide they provided all real-time data. So that 1.4 billion is from real chargers being like used out in California right now. And we were able to train all of our models based off of that. And then we were able to get internal validation from both people within that company and then within, our own test as well that okay, this is a product that works and is like something that they're interested in purchasing. And so that essentially gave us the confidence to then go out to other companies and say, hey, this is what we built. These are kind of our metrics. And, would you be interested in working with us? And so I think that after that initial pilot, is essentially when I feel like we gained that confidence to then reach out to other companies and come to them with an actual product and then get their opinion on it.
Yeah, I think confidence is the key part. And the second part is having a good product. Being a student, like allows us to get in contact with a lot more people, them knowing that we're not just here to sell them something. And then when we start talking to them, explaining the product, then we can switch to the more business side and like, hey, this is a great product. Here are the results, and we're serious about this, and we're confident in that this is gonna like benefit you guys. And just like a little switch up after we already introduced to them, we warmed up to them. It worked really well.
Now, you guys have formed, you have a team of three people, and a lot of the startups I see, it seems like they have one person and maybe a secondary person where, one's technical, one's, kind of the social face of stuff. But you guys have really gone at this as like, okay, we're the three of us, we're the three co-founders, CTO, COO, CEO. Um, how do you guys, I guess, work as a team and make sure to hold each other accountable when you're trying to, grow a business in this kind of new EV world?
Yeah,
Or
I
you
can
don't? You
answer.
guys just fight, pull out, the knives and go at it?
Sometimes we do disagree, and that's a really good thing because it brings different kind of perspectives to light. So, yeah, I love it when we disagree, actually. And so the way that we all work together is we're very close to each other, right? And we did a lot of hackathons in our time together as students itself. And what that's taught us is we've seen each other through the whole life cycle of, a 48-hour hackathon. And we've, gone through a lot of trouble together. We've gone through a lot of good times together. So all of that brings you really close and you really start to understand the people you're working with. And that's helped us the most in our journey as a founder,
Yeah.
as founders together. Yeah.
I agree. And when it comes to like the work split, all three of us are technical, and so we work on all of the tech together. And me and Suhani are usually our faces for public speaking or pitching, and so we usually do that together. And so we really work with our strong points. And then I think the basis of like everything is just trust. Like I trust both of them. Like if I was to fall off the face of the planet right now, like I know that they could run the company. And it's just like it's like an equal amount of passion from everyone and then also just the drive to want to grow this company. I think that's incredibly important to have those aligned values.
And hopefully they'd look for you too, and try to figure out what happened. But it's also good to hear, that, a UC and a CSU are getting along and working together on a project and collaborating, because I think, both schools bring very different talents to, the table. I went to Chico State, which is a CSU, and our most notable alumni could all do one thing, and that was sell while drunk. Um, so maybe that's not the best talent that you'd get at other places or at a UC, but got some notable alumni out of it. Um, Now, I've been working with EVs and have driven EVs for over a decade now, and have been part of SAC EV, which you guys are going to be speaking at this September and sharing your ideas with them. And I'll give you kind of a little preview of how a lot of the SAC EV members feel about the reliability of charging, and it's not good. Um, there's been a lot of us that have kind of been like, okay, how do we communicate to certain charging owners um and infrastructure owners that their systems are unreliable and that we don't find that they can work very well. Now, is there the possibility of a future where you guys also work kind of on the front end with people that go to chargers and have problems and report it to you, and then you kind of feed that in as a solution, as a opportunity for the companies?
Yes, absolutely. That's something that we've been researching as well. We initially started with the back of the office kind of model, where these models would help the charge point operators find issues before they happen. Now, the second leg of that comes in the whole downstream version of this problem of, okay, if a customer still finds a charger is down, what happens then? Who do they call? Who do they contact? So we're trying to find ways to fit into this whole ecosystem of charging. And so down the line, we're going to build products such as that, but we're trying to refine this one niche perfectly well so that we can fully, scale to other kind of companies that do these kind of things. And then from there, build other solution suites.
We've got some interesting questions, I think, in the chat there from Guy and David, which are, um, what are some of the examples of failures that you've been able to predict? Has there been anything that's been shocking or surprising that you didn't expect to see or discover when you were doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of the things that we did discover initially were primarily based off of the specific chargers that we were working with. And so things like detecting like failed RPM, like odd temperatures, all of those contributed to, us understanding what like an unhealthy charger looks like. So the way that we had gone about it specifically is that we created, which I'm not sure, I don't really see other companies in this space doing this, but what we essentially did was we created a health baseline for every single charger that we were monitoring. So we're not site specific, but we're charger specific. So that means for every single charger, the internal temperature within a single site can vary based off of, the coincidental location that the charger was placed in. And so we essentially built a health baseline for every single charger that we monitor. And then from then on, we were able to see what kind of deviations happened within, this charger system. And that allowed us to then see exactly like when a charger was showing like these early signs of failure based off of like the model that we essentially trained off of previous failures, both within that charger and then within that manufacturer's fleet. Sorry, that was, let me know if like you need any more like in-depth information.
So yeah, let's go a little bit more into that. So
Yeah.
first, let's start off like what are you tracking? I hear temperatures in there. What are the data points that you're collecting to be able to review these on?
So the primary data points that we're using are the OCPP logs. So we are currently our entire models are trained off of OCPP 1.6. And so we're all of the information that is carried within that is what we use to train our models. And of course, that does vary between vendor to vendor. But they primarily tend to share the same data types. And then on top of that, the company that we're working with also provided work order data. And so this helps us in knowing, okay, if like what parts to replace essentially down the line. So we know, when a charger has failed in the past and then exactly what had to be replaced or what had to be fixed. Am I breaking up?
No, you're not.
No, you're doing
I
good.
actually add
Okay,
on to
okay.
Samara. What OCPP logs exactly means is exactly how a charger talks to the connection system. So what exact things does it send back? It's like a heartbeat signal, like in networks, like in TCP/IP protocol, right? Exactly how this message is traveling. And it's like a heartbeat basically for the charger. Continue, Sonara. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Um, I'm kind of reminded a little bit. There was a company up the hill in Auburn called Clipper Creek, who got bought by Enphase Energy, and one of the things that made them special was when someone had a problem with a charger, they knew every charger inside out, so they could tell someone, hey, you need to fix that. And part of that they got from just over a decade of working on charging stations and I guess, manually gathering the data that you're hopefully getting, in a very short period of time. Um, so with that, you're doing predictive charging on it. What would a company that uses your software, what would their experience be like?
So for us, we're primarily an internal tool for them. And so whenever we notice that a charger is experiencing any signs of failure, what we do is essentially send out an alert to them and say, hey, this charger has, deviated X amount from this. It's showing, XYZ distress signals. And then from then on, we'll essentially send a notification out to the company. And that's how it currently works. But of course, our goal is to become a little bit more integrated and then be able to so right now we're currently working on a parts prediction model that we're testing out. And in that parts prediction model, in that it would allow us to then send in that notification um, a essentially report of like, hey, based off of based off of our model, this charger would need XYZ replacement with this level of confidence. And so right now we have about 14 precursor fault codes that we noticed that historically precede major failures. And so that helps us right now in predicting a charger's health, but we also want to get to the point where we're able to predict part by part exactly which aspect of the charger needs to be fixed.
Yes, and additional
Okay,
to
so
I like also like to add to Sanara. She mentioned that okay, you have this predictive model that can tell you exactly what's happening. What impact that has on a driver itself is you don't have any more downtime in these chargers. And if it is there, we've already predicted it and it can be resolved before it happens. And for a company, what that does is it increases the driver trust because Sanara's an EV driver, she can tell you herself, if you ever find a charger that's down repeatedly at a charging station, you will never go there again. You have trust issues with that charger now. So this kind of trust has to be reinstated, and that's what these models will help do. And also, in turn, revenue from that charger, the time it's down, all of those kind of down the line impacts are also what we can have.
Yeah. And we've noticed, like in the companies that we've interviewed, a lot of their processes for fixing these chargers are quite manual. So they'll wait until a customer calls in to even understand, what's wrong with the charger. And, there is, of course, limitations of what we're able to solve purely based off of OCPP, of course. Like our models, for example, or our technology couldn't detect like a vandalism, for example. And so it's not something that replaces the entire stack, but it's something that at least helps them understand if there's internal failures going on within the charger itself.
have you guys been able to get any paying customers yet?
Yeah, so we're currently our first customer, which is our only customer since we are quite early on, um, they're currently in the stage of paying. And once we reach out to these to new companies, our method right now is to provide them with essentially like a free pilot period, and then from then on, if they like those metrics that they're seeing, transferring them into a paid partnership.
So what metrics have you noticed that are most important to them? I mean, you mentioned, this uptime and throughput, which is huge if you want to be able to make money off of a charging station. And there's also customer satisfaction and potentially also reducing the cost to site visits. Have you found like there's one metric where they're just like, screw the customer, that doesn't bother me as much, or one where like, I gotta have this. This is just a big pain in my side.
So for us specifically, our number one metric is the mean time to resolution. So how fast can they go from seeing a charger is broken or on the verge of breaking, to then having a fully operational charger. And there's a lot of course, like complicated information that goes into it, but um, if our main goal is to see a significant decrease in that company's mean time to resolution. So that means that they're able to get their chargers up faster, that they're able to serve customers faster. And what I've noticed why this specific metric is important to these companies is because there are some chargers that are essentially like mega producers for them. So like in the company that we're working with, a lot of their chargers in LA um, produce the most amount of revenue for this company. And so they have a major priority to want to maintain and keep uptime in these chargers since they produce, the most revenue for them. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. And I kind of have another question similar around it is that, in the charging world, there's, the site operators, which the developers, the contractors that build the site and basically operate it. And it sounds like those are the ones that, you're hoping to be able to sell to. But there's also the EVSE manufacturers, the Enphase, which we had mentioned now, the larger, charge points, and the fast charger companies out there. So my kind of question is, are you competing with the manufacturers of these, faster chargers or these larger charger companies directly? Because I know a lot of them, they're companies that have historically built, their revenue models around, selling cheap things and then doing service plans to maintain them.
Yeah,
I think
so
of the
we
Siemens and other companies like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so we have actually spoken to a lot of those companies. And in fact, we actually met with one of them last week. And so predictive maintenance is also a large part of they're essentially like sales pitch to these CPOs whenever they sell their manufacturing whenever they sell the chargers that they manufacture, because for them selling an advanced system that has those capabilities integrated is important. But from the companies that we've spoken to so far, they haven't integrated a system like that yet, but it's something that they have shown us a lot of interest in. And so uh, I can't answer, of course, directly right now since, we don't have any confirmed
Yeah.
partnership with them, but from the meetings that we've had with them, they have showed interest in what we were building. And so, looking forward, that is a partnership that we're open to.
Now, governments and regulators have also put a lot of pressure on uptime on EV chargers, because it has been, poor in the past. Have you gotten support from the CEC, CPUC, and different agencies or air districts?
So, unfortunately, we actually haven't had a lot of communication with government agencies. I know this is important, that they're now starting to enforce the NEVI laws that they had written a couple years back. Um, but we haven't actually had much contact with government agencies, and that is something that we do want to look into. But we're not exactly sure what a partnership with them would look like. I'm not sure if that entails like us sharing, our clients' uptime data with them. I'm not sure, that seems a little like
It would
relying
come
a little,
down probably more to them putting the screws to the company saying, like, I know there's solutions out there to do this.
Mhm.
Um, why don't you have a solution? I know this company exists.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm going to call on Peter Mackin, who's actually the co-president of SAC EV, to ask a question.
Sure. Well, actually, it's more like a couple of
More of a
comments.
comment.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
so,
I
okay.
know.
I'm not disagreeing with your statistics about charger reliability. It's just that in my experience, I pretty much have no issues. Every time I go to a charger and I plug in, and darn thing works. Although I kind of limit myself to Electrify America and Tesla, so maybe that's the reason why I have such good luck. But the other thing I was going to say, and this is more of a thought for maybe like future expansion beyond just EVSE predictive maintenance is utilities probably could use this sort of thing, especially on their grid equipment, like their transformers and their uh, maybe even like the circuit breakers and things like that. Now, obviously, the input data that you feed into the machine learning model is going to be different because the failure modes and stuff is different. But you already have experience in doing it, so it might be something to look into, like for future expansion once you kind of hit the limit on the charger chargers space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, we definitely do see that throughout the industry. About your point of with real reliability, there are definitely companies that do it better than others. Um, and that is also very interesting what you said about the utilities. That is something that we are going to be looking into quite soon. Um, the EV charging market is quite small. And there is a lot of opportunity for expansion, both into utilities and I've even heard feedback from people in manufacturing that this type of technology could be important as things start to get more automated there. Um, yeah, so that's definitely something that we'll be looking into. Thank you.
Okay.
You should reach out to Peter. He does a lot of grid and utility scale system designs.
Absolutely.
And if he's in, and if he's like, hey, this could have a use, be a good person to talk to on it. Yeah, do we have any other hands in the audience? Okay. All right. So, what does the next year look like for um Data Pigeon? Are you fundraising? Are you selling? Are you going after grants? Are you expanding your team? Where are you in your startup phase?
Right now, we want to get more customers. That's like our main goal. But Suhani and Sina can speak more to our goals like internally as well. But externally, of course, expanding the company, getting more customers onboarded.
Yeah, Sonara sums it up great. Yes, we're trying to get more customers. We're trying to make these models as good as they possibly can be. And we're trying to white label our products. What that means is we're trying to make it a plug and play model where we don't have to go in and tweak like a small part of the model if it's a little bit of a different data. So we're just trying to make it a plug and play model that can scale very well.
Yeah, other than like the many customers in the future, like what Peter said, we're trying to discover some horizontal markets where the predictive maintenance could benefit, or they could benefit from predictive maintenance, as well as reaching out maybe to some international companies in the EV market that could use it.
Hmm. So basically, find more customers, talk to more people, do more testing and more validating, and probably maybe a couple pivots into other industry verticals or potentially customers if you go after the EVSE companies trying to, I guess, sell service plans to the site operators and things like that. So you guys have a whole, uh, um, a whole lot of different ways that you can go. And is there anything that you want people from from today to take away about Data Pigeon, um, and what, they should expect to see from Data Pigeon or what Data Pigeon hopes they do?
Yeah, so what I'd like you all to take away from this meeting is a whole new lens to charging. I know it's not maybe the most talked about field outside of sustainable spaces. So I want to bring more light to that space and bring more attention there to this problem and yeah, just try to show the world what kind of impact we can make.
Exactly. She summed it up perfectly.
It's like you
Yeah,
guys are all on the same page.
yeah, right. I have a question or a comment, Thomas.
Gary? Yeah.
Um, it seems like you're in the stage of refining your value proposition. That's where you started off talking to. And that's so important in the space that you're dealing with. Um, and it's commonly the case in a startup that you spend a lot of time getting the next customer and the next customer and the next customer, and you don't care as much about the customers you already have. Whereas actually, the best way to be selling is to make sure your existing customers are very enthusiastic about your product. They will give you the testimonials and the rave reviews online that you need. So just as you build a company, you've got a lot of C's there: COO, CTO, CEO. Think of a CSO. Who's your customer satisfaction officer? Because that's actually a different skill than the three that you're fulfilling now, which is a person that's constantly in communication with your customers, new and old, and getting feedback on how things are going so you can feed that back into the model and make sure you've got just a brilliant score that people give you on how satisfied they are. So just think about that there might be a fourth C um, that would accelerate your success. But congratulations on everything that you've done. Very creative. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm a Fortran programmer, so just give that to validate where I left the program.
I see.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
but
much.
that is great advice. Yeah. Like right now, since it's only, one customer, it feels like all three of us are kind of in charge of that role. But eventually, as we scale, we're going to need to, introduce some more members on our team.
Excellent. All right. And
If
with
I
that,
can, if I can add
I see.
something
Oh,
to what
I got
Peter,
a,
Yeah,
what Peter
guys,
Mackin was
I
saying.
hear Guy Hall there.
Yeah.
I'm going to select spotlight
I
him.
think, thank you. If I can just sort of add to what Peter Mackin was saying, that the EV, the fast chargers are certainly improving significantly in reliability.
Mhm.
But getting from, say, 50% uptime, which is kind of where we were a year or so ago, uh, to now where we're maybe at 90% is a lot easier to get from 90 to 99%. As the uptime becomes far higher, to keep closing that gap is a lot tougher and may require much more aggressive AI work. It's hard to build that reliability up from just experience that the team might be, the vendor might be gathering. It needs to be something far probably more data driven and probably built into the systems a bit more. So
We
just
absolutely.
because the fast charge is getting much more reliable doesn't mean that the job is over. The hard work is now beginning.
We agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that.
The hard work is doing the bit there. Um, yeah, and I think you really want to echo that because if you think about like what it costs to sell or, the price of a kilowatt hour, um, it's not like relative to the other things in your life, it's not a whole lot. So you've got to sell a lot of kilowatt hours to be able to make, your business pencil. And none of these businesses are operating on giant margins where they can afford, any downtime. They have to have, as much throughput and deliver as much power as they can reliably if they want to have any hope of, being able to grow, scale, and, finance their company and, make a career out of it. So, it might seem like, oh, it's never down to us, but unless, they're getting the throughput and selling the, you know, gigawatts hours, the terawatt hours of power, it's going to be a struggle or they're going to have to find additional services to be able to sell. And, despite, EVs being cheaper, um, people are very, price sensitive when it comes to changing technologies. You don't get to change technologies and keep all prices the same. You gotta provide an upgrade in the tech and the experience and an upgrade in the cost often. So I know I'm I'm grateful for what you guys are doing and hoping that you guys succeed in it. Um, and do we have any other questions in the audience? Gary, any final thoughts?
No, I'm congratulate you on the speed at which you've put this together. Um, I think there's a lot of demand for it out there, and um, people are going to be nipping at your heels. Just go as fast as you can to find out where those customers are and start making them happy.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thanks,
much,
Gary.
Thomas and Gary. Yeah.
All right. With that, I'm gonna read us out. Um, but first, let's Sonara, Sahini, Sina, thank you. That was fantastic. Let's give a whole big round of applause for Data Pigeon. Thank you for joining us today. Um, if today's conversation resonated with you, reach out to them. You can check out datapigeon.org. I know it's not a customer facing website at the moment, but it is something that you can log into, and then you can email them directly at info@datapigeon.org.
We did
And if you
actually
want to help
change it
them,
to datapigeon.ai.
oh,
Yeah.
.ai. Okay.
Yeah.
It's datapigeon.ai. Okay,
Yeah.
so reach out to them at datapigeon.ai, info@datapigeon.ai. And if you're like, hey, this actually sounds like something that we really want to push and introduce to groups in the area that you might work with, you know, reach out to me, reach out to them, help make warm introductions for this group here so that they can grow and accelerate in this ecosystem. A single warm introduction is the one that could make the difference and help Data Pigeon grow. I also want to close the way we opened with gratitude to our partners that make CleanStart's work possible: the Carlson Center, Sac State, E2, SMUD, and Chico Start. Thank you for investing in the founders, building our region's clean future. And I also want to highlight we have a perspective next week on gasification and forest waste with John Azevedo. And we also have our Power Series, 4 classes to jumpstart your journey. You can check all those out on our Luma, which is luma.com/CleanStart. And you can sign up and start your journey and maybe be the next data pigeon. So, with that, thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you for showing up for early stage founders. This ecosystem works because you guys turn out and listen to it and keep showing up. So keep an eye out for the next one and hopefully see you guys next week. And stay in touch. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye.